Hi, it's John from Owned Estate Planning here. Now, regularly clients will come to me asking about power of attorney, and one of the most important questions they ask is, how do I go about setting it up? The natural assumption is that they must use a solicitor or professional to set it up, and whilst that is advisable, that isn't strictly the only way of doing it. So really you've got two options. You can do it yourself, or you can get a professional to do it for you. So let's look at the two options. Doing it yourself. Now, you can ring the Office of Public Guardian, and I'll supply the numbers in the article below. You can ring them and request the forms yourself, or you can type Office of Public Guardian or Power of Attorney into Google and visit the Office of Public Guardian's website and use their software to create the forms for you. Now, just as a little pointer here, on Google, if you do type in a search for this, make sure the website you click on ends in .gov.uk, otherwise you'll end up on a private company's website who will charge you money for it. Okay, so if you've got onto their website correctly, you'll find that they have some pretty good guidance on how to go about the whole process. It's not something you're going to be doing in 10 minutes, so you need to put a lot of time aside for this. Someone like myself or solicitors will be able to do this pretty quickly because we know what we're doing. We've done it hundreds and hundreds of times. But if you're doing this for the first time, there's lots of things to be aware of, jargon to understand, and lots of questions that you really need to think about before you answer them. So when I'm advising people about this, I always say there's a couple of things you've got to bear in mind here. If you do it yourself, you're saving on the cost of paying somebody like myself to do it. So that's obviously a bonus. But at the same time, if you get it wrong, okay, you're going to have to pay registration fees anyway. And if it goes wrong and they get sent back to you, you're going to pay registration fees again, and potentially again, and maybe again. You might get lucky and your mistake might be so minor they don't ask for any more registration fees, but don't be under the illusion that they won't, okay? The other thing is obviously it takes a lot of time to go through. Do you have the time to do it? Do you understand the relevance of each question that's being asked? So a really common mistake people make is when there are multiple attorneys being appointed in a power of attorney, there's a question that you have to answer, which is, how do these attorneys act? Do they act jointly, so that everything's done together in agreements, or do they do what's called jointly and severally, which means, yeah, if you're all there, you can make that decision jointly, but actually if there's only one person there, then that person alone can make the decision. Now, a lot of people, without thinking about it, will just select jointly because they want all of their kids, for instance, to make that decision in agreement with each other, which is fine. But the problem is they don't realise if one person isn't there because they've now moved to Australia, they're on holiday, or they've died, nothing can be done. Because if you've got three attorneys in this case, and you've said jointly, unless all three are there, then no decision can ever be made again. It's not like that one person gets struck off and the remaining two can carry on doing it. It's literally all three or nothing. The number of powers of attorneys that I've seen that have been wiped out because of this, I've really genuinely lost count. So in this situation, obviously you'd go for jointly and severally to be a bit more flexible and allow for not everyone being there at any one time. Now obviously that's just one example of one question on this power of attorney whereby you think you might have done it right, but you might not actually find out you've done it wrong until years down the line. Now if the person that you're setting it up for has now lost capacity, you can't do another one. You've left it too late. And I've come across this on more than one occasion, I can promise you. So whilst I'm not saying this isn't something it's not something that's impossible to do by any stretch of the imagination, and don't make people think that you can't do it without professionals' help, please, please, please bear in mind that this can easily go wrong, and there are some real ramifications if it does go wrong, because if you can't redo it, you're going down a horrible route where you have to go to a place called the Court of Protection. You'll find some information on that on my website as well. And trust me, you do not want to go down that route. So option number one, do it yourself. Option number two, pay somebody like myself to do it. And then the whole point of that is not only is it all done for you, if it was me doing it, it's all done in the comfort of your own home as well. Another bonus. All I'll ask is maybe for a cup of tea. The other upside to this is obviously that if a professional is doing it for you, they should have professional indemnity insurance. Okay. Now that insurance means that if someone like myself did go wrong, touch wood, that hasn't happened yet, but if it did go wrong, it means that any costs that needs to be spent as a result of my error, I have to cover fully. And if I didn't have the money, I've got the insurance to cover it. So basically what it means is you've got to pay a sum of money to get this done. It's always a fixed fee with me, but at least you know it's a fixed fee and there's no more money that needs to be spent. So it's a way up between the two, really. Do you want to spend the time doing it yourself and making sure absolutely certain that you've got everything right, but at least saving money on paying somebody else to do it? Or would you prefer to save on the hassle and pay somebody else to do it? Choice is entirely yours. Any questions about it, please come to me.